Yeah.
Welcome to the show, guys. Hello, everybody. It's us again. Anton, how are you doing?
Doing very well. Great to see you and excited for what we're going to discuss today, which I think is going to be a very hot topic. Maybe you can share.
Absolutely. Yeah, the topic we are going to speak about is Bitcoin. So when it will hit 1 million,
Oh,
this is the topic we are going to speak about. And guys, if you want to support this channel, please subscribe and like. And if you have any questions, just drop them below. And this session is for education purposes only. So we are going to share our thoughts with you. And especially Anton, you are the crypto expert, and I'm really curious what your thoughts are.
yeah.
And let's dive into it.
Yes. I mean, look, first to say is like Bitcoin is now around 90,000. So let's say 100,000, close by. When I joined the crypto industry back in 2013, it was around like mid of 2013, it was around $100. So from $100 to $100,000, and now we are talking about $1 million. And the reason why I give you this example now is because we have actually had bigger price appreciations in Bitcoin than going from 100,000 to 1 million. We actually had from $100 to $100,000, right? So we're talking about a big scale because people might think like, wow, $1 million, it's so a lot, But kind of what I'm trying to make is that it's not that far away compared to where we were before. So from $100 to $100,000, it's 1,000x increase. While from $100,000 to $1 million, it's 10x increase. Now, obviously, now we're bigger, so it's more difficult to get a 10x increase, So this is not a financial advice, but I think that over a long time period, Bitcoin will definitely hit $1 million. There are two reasons for that. The first one is demand. There's going to be demand to allocate capital towards cryptocurrencies as a new asset class. So the same way you see bonds, stocks, gold, oil, and so on, and people then allocate capital, in their portfolio towards those asset classes, they will also allocate towards crypto. And Bitcoin is the biggest one in crypto, so they're going to allocate towards Bitcoin. So this is the first reason. The second reason is...
My friend,
Yeah.
before diving into the reasons for our listeners who are really new into
Yeah.
the topic, what is Bitcoin in simple words?
In one sentence, Bitcoin is like digital gold. So it's an asset that cannot be created out of thin air. So there's only 21 million Bitcoins. That's hard coded in the software that runs Bitcoin. You can kind of also think of it like as digital money. So Bitcoin runs on the blockchain, and the way Bitcoin comes into existence is that there are people who verify transactions on the blockchain that supports Bitcoin. And when they do that successfully, they get a reward, and the reward is Bitcoin, right? So this is like how the concept works. So decentralized money that cannot be created out of thin air, that cannot be controlled, that cannot be stopped. And that's an alternative to an existing system. I think that's also very important, right? Bitcoin is an alternative to traditional finance that in many ways people feel they have been failed by traditional finance, right? And talking about failures of traditional finance, so the second reason why I think Bitcoin will go to $1 million is because the governments and the central banks will not stop printing money. So they will never stop printing money. They have printed so much money, and that's why inflation, right, has been so high, and that's why money has lost value, right, so much in the last 10, 20 years. And Bitcoin is very sensitive to inflation, to money printing. So when central banks and governments print money, then the value of Bitcoin goes up. Why? Because liquidity then goes away from money that's losing value, from fiat currency, and it goes into hard assets. And then liquidity stays there, right? And that's what lifts up the price. So two reasons why I think over a long time period, Bitcoin will go up to 1 million is because, yeah, there's a demand for it, just as a new asset class, but also because central bank money printing and government money printing will never stop. And that's going to further then drive the value of Bitcoin. But I think, maybe, Farouk, I think a lot of people might be interested in our thoughts. When is it going to hit $1 million, right? Because it's a lot different if it will hit $1 million tomorrow, right, than in 10 years. So how do you see it? Like, what are your thoughts about when? Or do you think Bitcoin will hit $1 million, and then when, potentially?
Nobody has a crystal ball, obviously. And we know that Bitcoin is working in cycles. So, and especially right now, we are in difficult times, if we see the economic, that is really in a fragile situation, we can call it, due to the fact that politically we have a lot of issues right now around the world. And this is one of the reasons why assets will be allocated. So 2 different asset class. So that means, as you mentioned, fiat currency, absolutely. But I'm convinced that people will move their assets from fiat to other asset class. And one of them is obviously physical gold, physical silver, but also as alternative, also Bitcoin and probably other digital asset currencies. So it's difficult to tell, but as we know that it works in cycles, there are milestones probably to be reached. Also, as a technical point of view, we now had the all-time high of Bitcoin to about 120K-ish, roundabout. And the next milestone, which is considered, is about 250. So that means from K, we had a strong correction down to 86,000, and now we are around K-thousand, so 90K. And it seems it's going upwards again, because due to the unstable situation worldwide, people are probably, and also institutions are considering other digital asset class to be invested in. And that means perhaps, we don't know, that we will see again more or less these 120, but we don't know what is going to happen also afterwards. So it means either it goes to 150 or to 200K, or it's going down, and we will see a correction again. So conclusion, we don't know, nobody knows, nobody has a crystal ball, but there are strong signs due to the unstable, fragile situation worldwide that we can see probably an up in the next couple of weeks or months, but we don't know it.
Yes, exactly. And I think you make a very good point. It's almost certain, kind of, that because of the reasons that we mentioned, that Bitcoin might end up there, price-wise, right? I think what many times I try to explain to people, it's very important how we end up at those prices. So does it happen that just one day you wake up and then Bitcoin is at $1 million, right? So that means that something catastrophically happened if Bitcoin moved from $100,000 to 1 million within one day, right? So there was a world-affecting, impacting event that moved Bitcoin from $100,000 to $1 million. But that probably means that then gold went from $5,000 to $50,000. Silver went from, how much is it now? I think like $80, right, to $800, right? So everything moved in the same day. Or the alternative to that is that slowly over time, we end up at $1 million. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I hope that we actually slowly get there over a long time period, rather than we have a massive shock that then within one day everything reprices and then we end up at $1 million. Yeah.
Exactly. I would like to ask you, Anton, to share the newspaper from The Economic, which shared their predictions for 2025, 2030, and 2035.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then discuss a little bit about that, because The Economic had a prediction about 2025. And the prediction was wrong.
Okay.
So here we have it. So the headline, will Bitcoin hit 1 million? 24 experts reveal bold predictions for 2025, 2030, and 2035. And may I ask you please to scroll a little bit down about Bitcoin could hit the next bold small title below the picture. We have Bitcoin could hit so 145K by end of 2025. And exactly. And this didn't happen, right? So many people expected it. We were below 145. It was mentioned 120K-ish, but it was not far away, right?
Yes. So, I mean, what we first actually showed now is that predictions are very difficult, right? Because we just give you an example, right, where predictions were actually quite far off from where we are today, right? So at the end of 2025, at $90,000, where the prediction were basically 50% higher than that, right? So it shows you that this is not easy. I think a lot of people, what they do is when they try to predict the price, and that's why usually I don't do it, they extrapolate what they see. So if Bitcoin is going up, then everybody's saying Bitcoin will go up, right? If Bitcoin is going down, then everybody says it's a catastrophe, it will never work, it is going to go down, right? So we need to actually always think about the fundamentals. So not about the short-term price action, but about the fundamentals, and they'll always have a long-term view of how we allocate capital or invest or manage our portfolio, right? So, but now looking at the longer term prediction here, forecast, so by 2030, there's almost $500,000. And then in 10 years, basically at $1 million. I can just say personally, for me, these numbers seem a bit understated. So I would actually think that money printing and capital allocation will happen at a bigger scale than what we see now. And personally, I would expect these numbers to be hit a lot faster, but I could be wrong, and that's maybe because of my long-term optimism why I'm saying that. Farouk, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fine. It's really difficult to make the predictions, but if you consider the unstable, fragile situation worldwide, these are really one of the main reasons, but also consider the fundamentals and also the cycles, which are pushing the price up or down. I would like to ask you about the price itself. Many people think that the price of Bitcoin is soaring due to the fact of the retail hype. How truth is this thought?
Now, to say it very provocatively, it's actually true. So most of the investors at the moment are actually retail investors, right? And now you can say, Anton, but how can you say something like that? Because I keep on reading and I keep on hearing that that's not the case, that the institutions are allocating. Well, it turns out you can actually get this from data. So in the last 2 years, one of the biggest drivers of capital coming into Bitcoin is the spot Bitcoin ETFs in US. So you have some billions, tens of billions of dollars that came in through the crypto markets, but specifically Bitcoin, through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, what's beautiful about these spot Bitcoin ETFs, they have detailed data, is because the regulation demands that. And then you can actually go and check how much of these investors into spot Bitcoin ETFs are institutions and how much is retail, right? And in 2024, 80% of the capital that came in through spot Bitcoin ETFs was actually retail. And in 2025, it was 75% of capital that came in through spot Bitcoin ETFs was actually retail. So it's massive amounts of retail capital coming in, right? And now you also have different ways how capital can come in, either through stable coins. So when stable coins are minted on the blockchain, that's capital coming in, and then people can buy crypto or Bitcoin. That's institutional way. So retail is usually not going to stable coin issuers like Tether and Circle and getting stable coins for their cash. So this is institutional capital coming in, and then you can buy it through platforms like Binance, Coinbase. There's thousands of them. So, but to tell you from my experience, this is still all retail. This is still all retail, right? And why is that the case? Because you can tell me, Anton, but didn't you just say that people will allocate, all of these serious investors will allocate capital towards crypto and Bitcoin and so on, right? Yes, they will do that, but they do that very slowly because they need safety, they need security. They're allocating a lot of capital. Sometimes Bitcoin is too volatile for them even, right? So they will invest a lot of capital into crypto, but this will take a lot of time. The retail hype is true. Yes, most of the capital into crypto comes through retail, actually, based on the numbers that we have available. Yeah. Farouk, how do you
Absolutely
feel
right.
about that?
Yeah, absolutely right. So if we look back retrospectively, that the retail had really a huge lever, kind of a leverage to push the price. But now I notice that more and more institutions, especially in the US, are considering Bitcoin as an asset class. Tesla with Elon Musk was obviously one of the first, but a lot of institutions are still hesitating to invest in it. And my question to you will be, what needs to be ensured that more and more institutions are investing and see Bitcoin as an asset class?
Thank you very much. So first is that the reason why you would invest into Bitcoin is actually because it needs to fit into your investment goals, right? And that's why I also mentioned at the beginning, obviously, okay, over a long time, Bitcoin has been going up a lot, right? But it's extremely volatile, right? So it's not uncommon for Bitcoin to move 10, 15% within a day, right? Now imagine if the equity markets would move 10, 15% every day, right? So it's very volatile, right? Then still for a lot of people, Bitcoin doesn't have a long enough track record, right? Like being as an institutional product, right? So just for a few years now, we have 2 years actually, we have the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Then the third is people need to become comfortable with it, right? Because there's always, you hear these stories about hacks, you hear about exchanges blowing up, you hear all of these things about how this industry is quite volatile beyond the price, right? So this is actually kind of how I see it. It just takes a long time. It takes a lot of time, but we will get there. But maybe also to mention, because something, Farouk, that you and I didn't point out is because I talked a lot about the spot Bitcoin ETF, is strategy. And Michael Saylor, so he bought almost 3% of all Bitcoins. So it's billions and billions of dollars that he bought. And you can tell me then, well, Anton, isn't this an institutional product? Strategy is buying. So aren't the investors into strategy, shareholder strategy, aren't those big time institutions? And the answer is again, no. More than 50% of shareholders of strategy are actually retail investors. Now you have also people who are institutions. By the way, this is all public data, so you can go and check it. Because you have disclosures in the US markets who owns large amounts of stocks. And there you can see actually that strategy majority, so 50-something%, is still owned by retail. So again, this is a retail product. And that's why when you look at Michael Saylor and strategy, that's why he, wears this wizard hat with a big B logo on the top. He talks about, let's kill the bear market, and then there's a bear and him, trying to kill a bear. This is a retail communication. Is not communication for pension funds, for institutional investors. The way he talks about strategy, about what he's doing, his way of communicating is for retail. And of course, then that matches actually what you see in terms of who invests into strategy, which is retail.
Thank you very much for this words, Anton. Really interesting, also interesting for the next couple of months where we see the price of Bitcoin, if it's going up or down. It was an amazing conversation. Really, it was not the last about crypto and Bitcoin, because I'm pretty sure we will see some price movements in this year, and then we will also record and have a conversation about that. And for our audience, I really ask you, if you have any questions, drop them down below. We will have a look on it. And if you want to support us, please subscribe and like. That's the only thing you can do. It costs nothing. It doesn't hurt as well. So last words you have, Anton, for today?
Yeah. Let's do another episode when we hit 100,000, and then another one when we hit 200,000, and then another one when we hit 300,000, and all the way up to 1 million. And yeah, thanks everyone. I think you said it the best. Ask us questions. You can either write it under the video or send us a message. And this is all for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Wish you an amazing day. Thank you.
You too.
Goodbye. Ciao.
See you everyone. Bye-bye.